What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Ango Show live. Today it is Tuesday, November 4th, 2025. It's absolutely crazy. We're already in November. My name is Ango. Today I'm joined by Billy TKO. Shout out to Billy for joining us. Obviously, we were having some technical things we were working on before we went live. We were trying to get this thing going, so I do apologize if you guys were waiting a little bit longer. Shame on us because we are not the most consistent live streamers on YouTube. We're fucking pieces of shit. Let's just call it what it is. But that ends here. That ends today. The streak is over. We're back. We're ready to go. WWE Raw was it was an episode. I wouldn't say it was bad. I wouldn't say it was great. I wouldn't say it was amazing. I wouldn't say it was anything other than just a solid, good, easy watch of professional wrestling. Some people are probably going to disagree with that. Some people are going to say it's really good. And then, of course, you're going to have your naysayers, your negative Nancys that just hate everything in the world that is when other people are happy. I don't know. But nonetheless, I think it's going to be a fun time to talk about WWE Raw. We'll talk about the state of WWE as well, because I do want to have a conversation with you, Billy, regarding the state of WWE, kind of what's going on. I feel like every so often we kind of touch on this a little bit with what's happening in professional wrestling. And I think today, wrestling is in a very interesting situation compared to where we were maybe like a month ago, with Crown Jewel and stuff. So definitely a lot of things to discuss. I don't know if YouTube is pushing out the stream on my end or your end, but nonetheless, we're going to keep this going for everybody. If you guys are watching us here on YouTube, that's the only place where you can watch us on, because we are no longer multi-streaming to Twitch or to X.com. In fact, my activity will be 100% focused on YouTube and for the live content, obviously. So, the good thing is we're here. And if you guys are watching on demand, we appreciate you guys. Make sure you guys drop your comments. If you guys want to support the channel, if you guys want your questions, your hot takes, your comments reacted to, if you want them read on the stream, make sure you guys drop a super chat or become a member. Because I feel like that is a very helpful way of growing the channel and growing the show and all that good stuff. And obviously, I feel like we need to earn your guys' support again. So definitely stay tuned, because we're going to close out the year strong. We're going to do some big things in 2026 as well. But Billy, before we talk about Raw, man, WWE, the state of WWE, where are you at with your fandom? Where are you at with your interest level? Give me your perspective, your take on professional wrestling, WWE, AEW, TNA, everything that you kind of pay attention to.
From when we last spoke about it, I know we had talked maybe about a month and a half, 2 months ago, probably around Crown Jewel time, if I can last remember where we talked about this. When it comes down to the fandom, man, I'll tell you what, as a person who is, pretty consistently either doing watch-alongs or something along those lines, it gets very hard to keep up. But when it comes down to the fandom and like where I stand, it very much is. I'm this is going to be funny, but it's true. I'm trying to be the best fan that I can be, right? Because WWE asks for a lot of our time, and not only them, wrestling asks for a lot of our time. So I'm trying to figure out and map out where my time is best involved in. So me currently right now, I know it's very simple for me to watch Monday Night Raw. It's also very simple for me to watch NXT. It's also very simple for me to watch SmackDown. And again, I know there's going to be some people in the comments that just instantly like kind of blow up at the fact like, oh, well, you don't keep up with AEW and you don't keep up with TNA. I do keep up with them, but there is also this level of I have an outside life that I have to keep up with as well. And, time can't just go to one thing all the time. But when it comes down to my fandom, man, I'm trying to be the best fan that I can be overall.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because I feel like a lot of people take it as hate, right? And I understand why people do, because that's like the world that we live in with social media and the wrestling thing. We've been through this so many times where it's like you have to pick sides or whatever. But deep down inside, man, I just feel like there is a lot of wrestling. And I think yesterday was actually a perfect example of what me and you had talked about for a while, where I would tell you, like, I can't wait until fall season. Well,
yeah, for sure.
So now it's fall season. The Pistons played last night against the Grizzlies, and they had an excellent win. Yep. But, like, I'm paying attention to both. like,
Mhm.
and that's what I've told you before. It's like that dual screen experience. That's kind of where I'm
Yep.
sitting.
Yep.
And the reality is, like, obviously I pay attention to everything that's happening and I'm in the loop with everything. But I do feel as if right now in the state of wrestling, there is just too much happening. And unless you're really swinging for the fences and making it easy for me to watch and digest what you're producing, I can't really get hooked in. Right. And
Correct.
I think this is something that I've started to change a little bit throughout the year. I would talk about maybe not necessarily, watching live, but maybe I'll watch it after or whatever. Like, it's not going to be
Yeah,
that
some
big.
on demand experience.
Yeah, so like I've definitely been in that boat where I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna kind of change my viewing habits, but it's actually allowed me to enjoy wrestling more. Um, so
Okay, I need you to elaborate here.
yeah, so like for example, like you know, initially, and it's definitely a topic that we're going to talk about today, but like initially, when a while ago, when you would talk about the idea of Logan Paul being in the vision, right? Like
Ah, yeah.
it's not met with like the greatest, like, oh my God, I can't wait for that. Like, okay, yeah, it could be cool. But then, like, for example, like yesterday, I put out a tweet where I was like, oh, this is fire as fuck, you know?
Yeah.
And like
Mhm.
the reason why I'm enjoying it is because I think my viewing habits have changed so much to the point
Mhm.
where I tend to enjoy it more. Um,
So, okay, I'm
you know,
gonna interrupt you for a second, and I just kind of want to elaborate. When you're saying that, what I'm taking from it is that, okay, you're like you said, your viewing habits have changed, and I just want people to grasp that real fast. When we talk about viewing habits changing, I think kind of what you mentioned earlier. Pistons played the Grizzlies. It's more easier to get excited when you're not focusing on said thing, whether it be Raw, SmackDown, just any type of wrestling, when you're not fully locked in. And I know that sounds crazy, right? Because it's like, oh, these guys are wrestling content creators. They are supposed to be locked in at all times. But sometimes, and I won't say all the time, but sometimes the best experience comes from just being a fan and picking and choosing what you view as the best moment of the night or whatever. And kind of like you said, the Logan Paul thing, it's more exciting to you because of those viewing habits. And I just wanted to elaborate on that for people.
yeah, I think one thing I kind of want to elaborate on though too is like with wrestling, bro, I have gotten to the point where I just think in general, bro, wrestling is okay. Like let's take a step back for a second.
Yeah, pull it back.
Because there's so much wrestling to watch and so much wrestling to consume, if you're over consumed by something, you tend to not enjoy it. So, like, when I watch the Pistons game and I'm watching wrestling, it's like, yeah, obviously I know everything that's happening in wrestling, and the wrestling is the forefront of the experience. But sometimes I could just look to the side and then watch the Pistons a little bit too. And then
That's the best way to say it.
and
I
then
was saying that
and
wrong.
then I
That's
don't
the
feel
best way
like
to
I'm
say it.
overwhelmed by all this wrestling that I'm just like desperately trying to get
Correct.
through.
It's not being overwhelmed by it.
Yeah. And that's why I kind of want to talk about the state of wrestling right now, because obviously every few months I feel like it changes for people. I saw Cedric in the chat was like, hey, I took a step back from the wrestling product for a couple months. It's the first Raw that I
Mhm.
watched in a while and I enjoyed it a lot. Yeah, and I think that's the issue for a lot of wrestling fans is they're so overconsumed by the amount of wrestling that they're watching that they tend to get super, super, super invested in it. And to the point where it's like, well, of course you're not going to enjoy it because all you're doing is overwhelming yourself with this constant influx of content that you have to watch.
For sure. Yeah, it becomes a lot, man. There's no other way to describe it. It just naturally becomes a lot.
Yeah. Now, obviously, this is where things kind of pick up a little bit because WWE, you know, let's just call it what it is. They came out yesterday with like what I called a solid episode. Like everything was cohesive, everything was good. It wasn't like this groundbreaking new era thing, but like I appreciated the emphasis that they put on a lot of the stories, which I'm happy with. I think what really came down to it for me though is some people are very critical of the fact that I praise WWE, but not
Mhm.
enough people are critical of the fact when I critique WWE. And one of the things
Mhm.
that I've kind of been bothered with realistically with WWE is something that I feel I've always been critical of AEW about, which is the overhype of overhype and under delivering. And I
Yes.
understand what
Yes.
Triple H is doing. Like Triple H came out with a tweet yesterday saying it's like the new
The
era,
landscape.
landscape change,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And obviously what he's saying is because there's new world champions from Saturday night's main event, which like I get that. You know what I mean? I understand what he's doing. But sometimes it's like, man, you guys are using these buzzwords to get people hooked in there and to get people excited and to get people thinking that something massive is going to happen. Now we're in a situation where you're watching WWE and it's like, well, that's what happens. I think people sometimes over expect now and they have higher
Mhm.
expectations. And that's where maybe WWE is kind of under delivering in those ways. And that's where it falls on Triple H and WWE.
Mhm.
But I think yesterday was a very solid Raw like we've been getting. So what do you take from that? Like when you see Triple H doing this and Triple H as being the promoter, obviously it's the same thing that Tony Khan has done and pretty much any
Mhm.
promoter in the world. Do you how do you like tamper with your expectations? Like what's your feedback on that?
Well, I think you kind of said it best. If you're using those buzzwords, it's true. I have to come in with the same mentality that I come in for anybody else, right? I have to be critical, right? Because if you're not getting me to the point to where I need to be, right? Because when you use those words, I as a fan am now expecting, okay, well the landscape's going to change. It's something big's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then like you said, we get a solid Raw, but let's be real here, no landscape changed. None of that happened. Like it was just that new champions occurred. And it's like, okay, so that kind of pulls me back a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Because now I feel almost lied to in some cases. And maybe that's not like the exact way that they're trying to do it or whatever. But me as a fan, I feel lied to. And when they do that, what now happens is I step back almost a little bit from the product, right? Because now I have to watch with a new lens. Okay, well, they're saying this and can I really trust them, right?
Yeah.
Now we're talking about trust. And once you lose my trust, then you lose my viewing experience,
Yeah.
right? You won't have me as a viewer. So I don't know if it's true. If you're going to be critical of AEW and Tony Khan doing this and you get the same thing, you have to be critical about WWE in this sense too. Because as last night's Raw was a very solid Raw, but I didn't feel any landscape change. I didn't feel any crazy anything over the top happen. Of course, we had we had a return from Rey Mysterio, but again, there's levels to it, and I don't feel like they delivered in that sense. They delivered a good Raw, but not in the other sense of landscape change.
Yeah. Now let me ask you this because I think this is a very important part to it all. When you watch this episode of Raw and you see like Rey Mysterio returns, you see obviously Logan Paul joins the Vision, that kind of thing. What is your takeaway from like obviously you said it's solid and stuff, but what is your takeaway from the aspect of like, okay, we have a new champion at CM Punk who is your favorite. You get the legendary Rey Mysterio back. They just came back from Saturday night's main event. They're going to do the John Cena tournament. Like, do you think this is WWE playing it safe, or do you think WWE is still offering a little bit of excitement there?
Of course, there's still excitement. I think they're good. Here's the thing, WWE is still doing cool stuff. I mean, I understand that people had they threw like shit fits over the fact that Jey Uso and CM Punk didn't put on this 5-star match. But let's be real here. At the end of the day, like you said, CM Punk is my favorite, and I'm going to be a little biased here, but he's the world champion.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm pumped for that. You know what I mean? In 2025, I get to watch a guy that I grew up watching, being the biggest fan of, be world champion. Yeah, dude, I'm excited, and I will tune in for that reason alone. And that's why I get mad at WWE, because you already did something that I was excited for. I was going to tune in regardless. You didn't need to come out there and tell me, oh, there's even more essentially happening. Look at the landscape change. Look at all of that, right? That's where I feel the problem is. WWE didn't have to go out and do that. Triple H didn't have to put that tweet out. I was already genuinely excited.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I think when it comes down to it, yeah, man, WWE is still offering some exciting factors. I mean, you can look at the CM Punk, and one of the big things that really popped me through the night was him mentioning all those names and who he could, he looked in the mirror and this in particular part, he said, Sheamus, you want to have a banger? And dude, I lost it there.
Yeah.
I thought it was the funniest thing ever, but that excited me. You know what I mean? Like, it's 2025, dude. I don't think I'll see CM Punk and Sheamus. And that's what I want to see WWE kind of gravitate to. Okay, he's throwing these names out there. Let's get them.
Yeah.
Let's get them. Put it on a random Raw.
Yeah. So,
you know what I mean?
So I was so glad you brought that up too, because it's like one of the things that I'm really loving about SmackDown right now. And I know this sounds kind of crazy, because I am a storytelling guy and I've always been storytelling, but I always said it's a mixture of matches, stories, and you got to get people invested. And sometimes the match itself is good enough to get people invested in. I think like a perfect example of this that I go back to 2021, right? Grand Slam, Bryan Danielson, Kenny Omega. It's like, dude, you just got to do the freaking match. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really care the build. And what I love so much about SmackDown is like, and I want this to kind of carry over into Raw, and we kind of get this with Raw sometimes, but not consistently. Like, it kind of goes back and forth between the shows. But right now, SmackDown, you're seeing Ilya Dragunov do these open challenges. We saw Sami Zayn do it. And the thing that I love so much about that is like, you could tell a great story through open challenges. You could tell a great story after an open challenge, but you got to give us some matchups that are fresh, some things that we haven't seen before. Right. So like,
correct.
And I hate to use this example because I love Penta, and I know Tolino Channel has a super chat regarding this, and we'll get into that. But it's like Penta going up with El Grande Americano, and then there's this thing with Dominic Mysterio also in the mix, and then it's like, okay, we're revisiting Dom and Ray. Sometimes I just want something a little bit more fresh. So like SmackDown, for example, we're getting Ilya Dragunov and Aleister Black, and you're like, oh my God, bro, like we got to get this, you know? On WWE Raw, CM Punk is the champion, and he's towards the end of his career. There's just certain feuds or certain matches you have to run back, because otherwise you're going to get super sick and tired of CM Punk in the vision.
And the one thing that you have to remember too through this is that World Heavyweight Championship is the workhorse championship.
Yeah.
It always has been, right? That's how WWE has always described it. So that's what I'm going to look at it from. It's the workhorse championship.
Yeah.
No matter CM Punk's age, no matter, the stories that no, he's the workhorse champion. Go defend it on a random Raw. You want to be a fighting champion? Here's your opportunity. You know what I mean? Now you have the time. Like you said, when we see a match like Ilya Dragunov and Aleister Black, I don't know who's going to win that.
Yeah.
Of course, I think, I think Ilya is going to win because he just won the championship, but we've seen it. I didn't think Ilya was going to beat Sami.
Yeah.
I didn't. I did not, but he did. And that's the excitement. We want that excitement factor back. I want CM Punk and Sheamus to go have a 15, 16-minute banger. You know what I mean? Yeah. On a random Monday. Bring that back, because that's the type of stuff that's going to get me excited.
Yeah.
That is the type of stuff I look for. I don't want to see, kind of like you said, Penta, El Grande Americano. It's the rinse, repeat, recycle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's constant flow of the same exact thing. And WWE's starting to fall into that loop a little bit. And maybe because on Raw, they're dealing with the same storylines. But at the end of the day, you can freshen up your product.
Yeah.
You genuinely can. And I think WWE should grasp that. You can freshen up the product. Don't be afraid 1 week to throw Sheamus on, and maybe you don't throw El Grande Americano on this episode. It's okay.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. I think that's why it's like, and that's why I think it's kind of cool, like in this particular case where, okay, man, I kind of want Sheamus and CM Punk to run it back. Like it's like, I want CM Punk to have some random matches. And the thing is, if you want to protect the people that CM Punk is going up against, well, you can continue telling the storyline with him in the Vision. So yeah, it's going to get a little bit of rinse and repeat, but that's the point of a storyline. I mean, that is what wrestling is.
Correct.
You know what I mean? You can't just do random matches all the time. If you do random matches all the time, you turn into AEW. And next thing you know,
then we're going to have a problem.
And then you turn into AEW, and then your viewership goes downhill. And then you're wondering why maybe the company might not survive in the next 7 years. So
it's truly about, don't be afraid to take a risk. WWE is in such a comfortable position that they can take risks.
So this is where I was gonna critique WWE, not to cut you off, but sometimes WWE sometimes does play it safe because they know what's works. And I think AEW is willing to take risks. And I think the thing that makes it such a convoluted conversation is that sometimes the risk isn't always worth the reward. Sometimes the reward isn't always that big. And sometimes the risk was just a little too risky. So it's like, sometimes I just want a middle ground, a gray area in which try sometimes to take a risk. Like for a good example, just a good example. El Grande Americano right now is incredibly over in AAA. He's incredibly over. Ludwig Kaiser is killing it as El Grande Americano, literally to the point where I don't even
He's
want to
not.
see. I don't want to see the character go away. Like this is
Yeah.
something I
Yeah.
want like to eventually be a fucking massive thing in WWE.
Mm-hmm.
But then we get to the super chat of Tolino Channel, and he says, "I feel Penta is in a vortex. Gives good matches and good presentation, but lack of storylines and establishing why fans should invest in him." Well, there's no issue with fans getting invested in Penta. It's already there. But WWE, what they're doing with Penta is the same thing that Triple H did with Bronson Reed when he brought him back to the company. Good presentation, good character, goes out there and has matches for a while, and then eventually finds a role for him. And that's exactly what is happening. So Penta is over, and I love El Grande Americano, but can we get them away from each other? Can we do more than this whole thing where, El Grande Americano puts the steel plate in his face mask, and
Right.
Rayo and Brio or whatever, Bravo and Rayo, whatever they're called, his little Americanos, like
Bravo and Rayo.
yeah, like, you know what I'm saying? Can we just go for a little bit of a risk where it's like, hey, maybe Penta is now doing something completely different than sticking around with El Grande Americano? Can we put El Grande Americano in the U.S. title picture on SmackDown? Because we know Ludwig Kaiser and fucking Ilya Dragunov are going to have a banger. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, can we do a little bit of that risk where we just move people around and just kind of get them away from each other?
Good. Yeah, dude. Look at what they did last night. It's something that they brought back. The Tumblr.
Yeah.
The Tumblr. Where they pick names
Yeah.
out of a hat, and you got these random matches for this tournament. Dude, I'm excited for that thing. Okay, Ilya Dragunov, kind of like you said, has this United States Championship Open Challenge. Let it be anybody from anywhere. And don't be afraid to pull your superstars from Raw that are constantly used on Raw and put them over there, because guess what's that's going to do? Again, that offers excitement. If I were to see Ilya versus El Grande Americano or Ludwig Kaiser, dude, I would have a ball, because like you said, I know that they're going to go out there and have a banger. I know that it's going to be exciting. I know that it's going to be fun. WWE needs to not play it so safe.
Yeah.
It's just the honest truth. They have to, because playing it safe, truth be told, and again, because you're so comfortable and you're so safe, it's costing your fans to feel like, okay, well, if I don't tune in this week, then I'm not really missing anything, because I know what I'm going to get. Something with the Vision, something with the New Day, something with the Kabuki Warriors, something with Bailey, something with I know what's going to happen on Monday Night Raw. And I think that's kind of like the real kicker, is that you're allowing people to tune out.
Yes.
Without even knowing that they're tuning out.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that's also another thing too about the social media age of professional wrestling. I've said this before. Every episode of Raw, SmackDown, NXT, Dynamite, TNA, Impact, it's all skippable, because you could literally go online and everything's already there.
Highlights exist, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, and they're the ones posting it. The companies are posting it in real time. Like, hey, this is what it is. Like, there's people.
Yeah, this is what just happened.
There's definitely people out there who don't have to watch it, but they know what's going on. I don't think that's the correct way of viewing it if you're a content creator. If you're a content creator,
I have so many friends that do it.
Yeah, like if you're a content creator, it's like a little bit different, because how do you know what the fuck you're talking about based on a 30-second highlight clip? But if you're a wrestling,
you should probably tune in.
Yeah, but if you're a wrestling fan and you're just like, hey man, like I'm gonna go out with my friends tonight, I'm gonna go do some other shit today. Well, then it kind of makes sense for somebody to be like, yeah, you know what? I'll just check Twitter after. Or
and the real kicker is that not everybody is a content creator. You know what I'm saying? There are people like that.
Yeah.
And that's the fan that they need to be worried about. Because I'm going to tune in regardless. I'm a content creator. You're going to tune in regardless because you're a content creator.
Yeah.
But somebody like Cedric, for instance, who we mentioned earlier, Cedric just said that was the first Raw I watched because, at some point Cedric felt like, okay, I need to pull away from this. That's what WWE needs to be concerned about. Don't be concerned about me. Be concerned about the person who is actually viewing your product on a weekly basis. And of course I am, but you need to keep people invested. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not just people like me.
Yeah. So I think, that's kind of where we are. I want to give a shout out to Roger Peters, because he's offering some really great analysis in the chat. He says Penta's been a flop in double E. He says WWE TV is skippable. Penta hasn't been in one good storyline. He also goes on to say Bandito versus Dorado. Yeah, I mean, I think those are all very valid, bro. I think Penta fucking sucks, to be honest. I think Penta's the worst WWE superstar in the world. See, that's what doesn't make wrestling enjoyable. That's
Correct.
I want to throw that out there. That's not what makes wrestling
WWE.
enjoyable. Well, no, I think what really ends up happening, and this is why wrestling, if I'm gonna let's fucking crash out for a second. Let's have a little bit of fun here.
Yeah, dude, let's do it.
Let's make
Let's
the
do
live
it.
stream a little bit fun. I think what ends up
Come on,
happening
spice
is
it
like
up.
wrestling is just a fucking TV show. And so you either do a good job or you don't do a good job. But like there's people who make this shit their entire life. It's their whole personality trait of being like a WWE or AEW hater. And it's just a fucking weird ass way to live, bro. Like I don't get it personally cuz I sit here and I don't know, like people take so much offense to it. Like I just think AEW fucking sucks. I think 90% of what AEW does is pretty ass, right? I stand on business. I really don't feel like they're solid to watch, but like to sit here and be like, this is fucking great. I don't care, right? WWE right now, I think is like kind of in the same way where it's like 90% of it is kind of like, who gives a shit,
But because you're praising a certain, you're offering analysis. Don't even let me say praising. You're offering analysis. People choose to tune into it. They choose to pick at those things. They don't. I don't know. Man.
So that's the thing though with professional wrestling. Like I said, it's like Raw was a solid episode. But what are they really doing to hook me in and be like, oh my God, my eyes are glued to the screen?
Nothing.
They're not.
Nothing.
And it's like, it's so fucking weird because I can have that same analysis on this, but also be like, damn, bro, Logan Paul joining the Vision is fire.
Right. It's crazy how two things are allowed to be true at one time.
So
that's essentially
so
what
where I'm at with wrestling and I'm watching Raw and I see this stuff. It's like, bro, I love Rey Mysterio. Don't get me wrong. I love Rey Mysterio. I love what they're doing with AJ Styles and Dragon Lee. I love it.
Yep.
But is this making me fucking glued to my chair being like, dude, I gotta watch this. I gotta watch this? No. So for someone like me, that's why I do the dual screen experience of watching the Pistons game and wrestling. I need to know what's going on in wrestling. Go ahead.
Can I offer something real fast? WWE, AEW, nobody has done this in quite some time. You're talking about glued to the screen. Nobody's done it in quite some time. The last time I was genuinely glued to my screen was on that build to WrestleMania 40. That was the
Cody and
last
Final
time.
Boss stuff. Which, by the way, by the way, I do got something I kind of want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
But yeah, I definitely agree. Like, I don't feel like WWE or AEW or any company is really making me glued to the screen.
They're not. And I don't know whose fault that is. I don't know if that's a fault of me. I don't know if that's a fault of them. All I do know is that it's not happening and something's wrong. And I know for a fact that it's not my job to fix. Right.
Well, yeah, and it's, by the way, it's also pretty evident in the programming. If you watch WWE television, like it's pretty evident that the brand TKO and everything that they're doing is working, right? So let's just hypothetically speak and say, fuck WWE, it sucks. It's the worst show in the world. Let's just say that was the case, right? If I felt that way about WWE, if I genuinely felt that way about WWE, it doesn't matter because people are spending the outrageous freaking money to go.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
But if I say, hypothetically speaking, oh my God, AEW's ass, AEW's ass, AEW's ass, and it's garbage, no matter what Roger Peters says in the chat about how fire Dynamite is, he cannot convince me that Dynamite is a hot product because Dynamite is not selling as many tickets. Wrestle Dream sold less tickets than Bound for Glory. So you can't sit here and say from a business perspective that
it's working.
That it's working, right? So even if I'm criticizing WWE, right? Even if I'm criticizing WWE, deep down inside, when it comes to the business construct of everything that they're doing, it doesn't matter because it's working. I'm not glued to my seat, but people are like, I need to be there. And I have had this weird disconnect from professional wrestling, Billy. And this is where things might be a little bit weird. But this is where I have a weird disconnect from professional wrestling. Because next month, WWE is coming for a house show. And on
the 30th.
Yeah, so with me planning for a wedding, if I wasn't planning for a wedding, I love house shows. WWE house shows are fun.
They are great. They're a lot of fun. I went last year.
Yeah, I love house shows. You know what I mean? And it's cool because the wrestlers don't take it too serious, so they have a little bit more fun. They do a little bit of different stuff that you don't see on TV. But now that I'm planning a wedding, do you think I want to go spend a couple $100 for a couple tickets to go watch a house show?
Hell no.
No. But you know what's crazy? People are doing it.
For sure. There's people that do it.
So the thing
it doesn't
is,
matter.
So that's the thing, right? Like when you look at WWE, I have this disconnect because I do think at one point in my life, a couple of years ago, I would have been like, fuck, I have to be there. I have to be there. I have to be there. Now my mentality is I don't have to be there.
I'm in that same boat. I feel it.
You know, so,
you don't always feel like the FOMO's kind of gone away.
Yes, yeah, perfect example. Yeah, I don't think like I don't have FOMO with professional wrestling anymore, which is okay.
Yeah, me.
Where did I have FOMO? The Rock and Cody and the Final Boss.
Yes, bro. Because I remember we were sitting here every single day covering that shit and covering it some more. That was the last time I really had FOMO. I don't know how a company can get me back to that, but it has to exist somewhere along the line. But really, at the end of the day, that was like the last time that FOMO genuinely existed.
And that's what I'm saying. It's not being overly critical or under critical or like anything like that. It's just the point that like I said, Raw was solid, but there's nothing that's making me glued to the seat. And it kind of makes me want to. It kind of goes into the next super chat by Tolino Channel. He dropped another 100 rupees. He said, instead of attacking Uso, Knight, Punk, Vision needs to go after tag titles and also destroy every team on that roster and become a destructive force. So like this was actually something that I found very interesting when I read it, because when I watch the Vision going after Punk, when I watch the Vision going after LA Knight, or you know, it's like the same thing every week, right? I don't mind that being the storyline. But what if the Vision kind of had this like takeover, and I hate takeover. I hate using the word takeover storyline because we got it with so many groups and so many people.
But they run rampant on Raw.
And it doesn't matter. They even go after the heels, right? The thing about the Vision is like it's a cool group, and I like the guys in the group individually, and I like the pairing and stuff. But I just feel like it's lacking something, right? And so,
okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, and so like for me, because it's lacking that something, it's not big enough to make me glued to the seat. But like a perfect example was like when Triple H used to kick off Raw, where just like people were fucking brawling to open up the show and chaos and shit. It's like, why isn't the Vision going backstage, going after everybody? Like, why isn't that kind of happening? But that used to make me feel. Do you remember, bro? We used to sit here live and be like, bro, I turned on Raw and I couldn't turn it off.
Do you remember there was a one time, I think it was The Miz and Logan Paul, were they brawling? I can't remember, but it was The Miz and somebody. The Miz and Tommaso Ciampa, I think it was.
Yeah.
They had opened up the show and them two just beating the shit out of each other. I was like, oh my God, this is great. This is great. And everybody at that time, I'll never forget it. Everybody at that time was like, oh, well, Triple H did this in NXT all the time, dude. Like, we've seen this numerous times. And it's like, yeah, bro, it worked. I'm sitting here excited every single time it happens. I am excited. So, yeah, I remember those times. We would cover them. We would sit there and talk about them. It just, yeah, it's tough, man.
And so that's where I just think wrestling, what wrestling is missing. Because I do think Tolino Channel's right. It's like, man, they should go after the tag titles and be destructive force. And it's that I do think to a certain extent where it was like, why not start off with some chaos? Why are we starting off with promos? You know, like, come on.
So
switch it up a little bit.
For sure. I think one of the biggest issues is how they're trying to sell Braun Breaker. As much as Braun Breaker is the bad guy, think about him. He's dope, right? He's cool. He's cool as hell, dude.
Yeah.
And they're almost trying to sell Braun Breaker to me in that way that, oh, he just knows he can beat up anybody. It doesn't matter. He doesn't have to go do that. He can just do it regardless. No, I need him out there beating the shit out of somebody. You know what I mean? Yeah. Constantly. Because that's what I expect out of Braun Breaker. I don't expect him to be walking around with the sweet jacket and just, you know, the glasses and all that type. No, I don't expect that from him. He's a heel. And he's a beast too. Let him go beat the shit out of somebody. For real. It just needs to be that simple. Open up the show with it. End the show with it. Do whatever you got to do. Obviously, don't always do it, but do it enough. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a certain level of understanding like, okay, I could do it here, maybe it won't work here. I could do it here, maybe it won't work there. It's a very simple level that WWE knows. They know how to comprehend at the end of the day. But yeah, that is one thing where it's been so long since WWE truly has been able to gravitate me as a fan, kind of going back to the Cody Rock thing. It's been since then, and it just feels like maybe they don't have the pieces to do it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just what they're showing me. Like, one thing that kind of excited me that I wish we would have got was like a guy like Drew McIntyre winning the WWE Championship. Like, I felt like knowing how good of a storyteller Drew McIntyre is, I was like, okay, maybe they need somewhere with him, right? And then they don't do that. It's like, okay, we're going to continue down the same path and the same path and the same path and just going with what's right. I know I'm kind of blabbing on here, but these things as a fan, they become frustrating.
It does. And like I said, I just want to see them switch it up a little bit. That's it.
All
I want to see is them switch it up a little bit. Chester made a good point in the chat. He says NXT doesn't start their shows with promos. Sometimes they do. It's not so much. It's not even so much about starting off the show with a promo or not. It's like, can we just go back to where like, it's unpredictable a little bit?
Correct. I mentioned in the live stream, I think Saturday night's main event, I had actually mentioned that in the live stream. I said, I hate being a wrestling fan. I said, because I know exactly what's going to happen. I said, I hate being able to predict exactly what's going to happen and when it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And that kind of, like, as much as it's like, oh yeah, look at me, I know what's going to happen. No. I hate that sometimes, dude. I want to be wrong about things. I don't want to be right about that shit all the time, and I'm not saying I'm right all the time, but really what I'm getting to here is like, as a fan, WWE has shown me numerous times, like, hey, we're going to do this and we're going to work towards this. And you just have to figure out, so here's A and B, you just got to figure out C.
Yeah.
That's essentially what it is.
So can I ask you a question?
That's a problem.
Can I ask you a question? Because we didn't get to talk about it, but like for Saturday night's main event, did you expect Punk to win and did you expect Jade Cargill to win?
Yes. I put out my own prediction video, which people can go check out if you guys want to. YouTube.com/BillyTKO. Go watch that. I made a prediction video and I said in the prediction video, I was like, oh man, like, WWE, if they wanted to be, again, we're talking about like, oh, they want to be cool. A great way to do it. Don't have anybody win the championship. Let Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed come out, beat the shit out of these guys, stop the match, right? Because we seen Braun Breaker on Raw the week before. He's carrying the championship. It looks like he's going to get involved. So I had predicted, I was like, oh man, WWE may just not do any champion. How cool would that be? That would be so much fun. And it would make that World Heavyweight Championship storyline that much better because you have to work for somebody to get to it eventually. Now, obviously, it was still a prediction video, and I still predicted that CM Punk would win. I said, but WWE's not going to do that. They're going to give the championship to CM Punk. I knew it from the moment that it happened. There was no way that WWE was going to miss the opportunity at this moment in time to give the belt to CM Punk. He's your guy. He's the one over there putting asses in seats. He's making the money for them. He's going on all these different press runs. He's doing all of those things, and good for him. CM Punk. What Meek Mill say, I used to pray for times like these. CM Punk really did. You know what I'm saying? So he deserves it. But at the end of the day, WWE, I felt like, could have saved that moment. For me in particular, they could have saved that moment for WrestleMania. I wanted to see him main event WrestleMania Night 2. I wanted to see him win it there in that moment, right? Because I got to witness him win it, win the main or be in the main event last year. And maybe he didn't even have to win it, but just be a part of that Night 2 main event. But instead, they chose to give it to me on some random Saturday night's main event in Salt Lake City, Utah.
I'm not going to lie, though. That's why I loved it. I didn't expect it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. That's fair. I fully did. I fully did.
See, I didn't. I thought with all the stuff that was happening, I think with all the stuff that was happening with Jey Uso and they're telling the story of Jey Uso potentially turning heel and stuff, I was actually thinking, oh my God, they might give it to Jey Uso and have him do the heel turn. And I actually
there was always a part in the back of my mind.
And I thought Tiffany was going to retain it because Bianca Belair was going to come back and screw over
Jade
Cargill. So like that was just
WWE would have got shit on all over if they did that. If they would have went that route, they would have got shit on. Who knows?
But I wasn't expecting Jade to walk out with the belt, and like I'm glad that so like that's the weird thing, right? Like Saturday night's main event to me was actually a little unpredictable. But then I watch Raw, and it's like I go back and I revisit your thoughts where you were saying I could kind of predict everything that's going to happen. I already know what's going to happen. So it's like it's kind of good. It's a good thing sometimes for Saturday night's main event for that to happen because it makes me want to watch it more. They don't feel like just throwaway shows, you know?
For sure. And that's what they did. They genuinely made me want to tune into Monday. Again, we go back to the beginning of this live stream where we said, Triple H, the new landscape, blah, 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 using those buzzwords. He didn't have to do that. Bro, I watched Saturday night's main event. I was going to tune in regardless.
Yeah.
Just give me a good show. I don't care about what the hell you're tweeting. I get it. You're a promoter at the end of the day. That's what you got to do. I don't give a fuck. Oh, that's a big word. I don't give a shit.
I just saw some very interesting analysis from our good friend in Digital Films. He dropped a $13.99 Canadian dollar super chat, and he says the Cena storyline distracted from building stronger momentum for the current stars. Things will pick up and get more interesting when they have to focus on newer stars. I do think to a certain extent that is actually pretty accurate.
Lock it. Is that what the kids are doing? Clock it.
Yeah, I think that's actually very fair. And I think we'll see how WWE builds up John Cena's last match. Obviously, the tournament announcement's a big deal, but I do think to a certain extent the Cena stuff is a distraction. I think WWE is kind of been hit with a couple problems right now. The Cena thing retiring, I think, takes away from one really good storyline taking place to replace that. I think the Seth Rollins injury really fucked up plans because we're going to talk about Logan Paul in just a moment.
For sure.
But Seth Rollins injury fucked up big plans. I think right now when you look at WWE and you look at Cody Rhodes, I think Cody's a great champion and he's holding it down and he's doing awesome stuff. But I think the fact that he's holding the championship belt so long again, like obviously it's not another long reign, but he's holding the championship again, and where it's like, okay, well, how are you going to end his storyline again? Like, what's the plan there? I think there's certain things where WWE just kind of has to get away from the distraction. So what I mean by this is like, this is crazy, but like Drew McIntyre didn't win against Cody. But it's like, imagine if they had Drew beat Cody because Randy turned heel. Yeah, it's fantasy booking and it's fantasy land shit. But like,
but it would have been nice.
It would have been like this big storyline in the middle of the year, not WrestleMania season.
That builds us.
Exactly.
That builds us.
Yes, like I think they need to get through some things to really lock in, and don't make me wait until WrestleMania for you to lock in.
Correct. I actually I hate to interrupt, but I did I have a member over here, right hand Cam. He's joined our lower card membership over here on my channel. He's joined for a month. So shout out to Cam for that. But I also got a super chat, which kind of follows up on what we've been talking about with the John Cena thing. If you're good, Ango.
Go ahead. Shout out to In Digital Films.
So I got one. Shout out to In Digital Films. We have Adam Myron over here. He says, hey guys, would it be better with Cena in War Games instead of him winning the IC title against Dirty Dom? Let Ray get Dom for Survivor Series, not Cena. And this is a $5 super chat from Adam. Yeah, absolutely.
No,
you don't think so? Let's have a conversation about this real fast.
Hit me.
Because I genuinely feel in my heart of hearts that last night, what we seen, we're gonna get Ray and Dom in San Diego. There's no way about it now.
Oh, yeah.
And this is actually something that I really wanted to talk about. And this is gonna be a little follow-up question to this super chat. But obviously people are going to be upset that we're going to get Ray and Dom at Survivor Series. I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
If we do get that and we don't get Cena and Dom for the Intercontinental Championship, does anything happen to Cena's legacy if he doesn't win that championship?
No, but it just makes it better.
Okay. So I just wanted to see. Now, when we talk about, War Games and him being involved in War Games, I actually think that's probably where they're going to put him, especially after Punk mentioned him last night on TV. Like, they're going to put him in that War Games match, regardless of the fact. But why don't you think that it's, a better idea?
I'm indifferent. I'm torn because I like the idea of John Cena winning the Intercontinental Championship and then dropping it in his retirement match or retiring as champion. Because I had this theory, and I told you before, like John Cena should retire the
Mhm.
Intercontinental Championship and they come out with a new belt.
Yeah.
I really think they should come
Re-
out with a new belt. I really like so this is my theory.
Okay.
John Cena should win the Intercontinental Championship, retire the belt, and then following up in 2026, WWE hosts a tournament for a new championship. It could be like an international title or something like that. But this new mid
Let 'em
card
travel
title
with
should
it.
retire. The IC title should be retired. A new belt it comes into Raw, and this is a belt that you see floating around between their partners. So sometimes you see it on TNA, sometimes you see it in AAA, sometimes you see it on NXT. But this should be like your workhorse title. Call it the International
Mhm.
Championship, the TV Championship, call it whatever the hell you want to call it.
Whatever
It
you wanna
doesn't
call it.
matter. But Cena should win the IC title and retire it completely. And then on top of that, if John Cena were
Mhm.
to retire on top, I think that would be a great thing. Some people retire and they lose. I think John Cena naturally would probably want to put somebody over, just knowing like his personality and the way he conducts himself.
You sure about that? So many people would argue that and be like, "No, you wouldn't. John Cena buried everybody."
No, I think John would probably do the right thing and put somebody over. But
So do I.
imagine if
So
you
do I.
called it the end of a chapter for a title belt, and WWE's new era for 2026 would include a belt where it's like, yeah, this is kind of like your IC title, but it doesn't always need a major storyline. Look for example, Ethan Page is in NXT, but he's got this great feud with Wagner and AAA, and it's like he's got the
Yeah.
Canadian North American Championship belt. But imagine if there was something like that on Raw and this belt got to float around between WWE's partners. It's like, I don't know. I just think it would be a lot better of an idea. And then John Cena retires on top.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit. I do like the idea of what you're saying about a new championship and eventually retiring it. That I'm not fully against, but I don't know if John Cena necessarily going out and retiring that championship makes a lot of sense because John doesn't have the legacy of the Intercontinental Championship. I guess that would be my one argument is John Cena at this point he would have only won it one time. And yes, you can make the argument like, oh, it's John Cena and he's walking away with this championship. Regardless of that fact, like if I seen somebody retire the Intercontinental Championship, it would have to be somebody like The Miz, for instance, like somebody who really has
I
somebody who really
disagree.
has a legacy.
No,
Somebody who
man.
really has a legacy with that championship.
No.
You can't just dude, you have to think of how much a staple that championship really is. I hear you with going away from it and things like that, but really think about the legacy of that championship. Think about the names who have held that thing.
But
You cannot
none of
just go
them
away
have
from
ever
that.
been on the level of John Cena. He is the greatest of all time.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. That's
So like
if you're going to make that argument of, oh, well, he's the greatest of all time, he's the person who should walk away with it. Maybe I understand where you're coming from, but still, Shawn Michaels held that championship. What are
for
what
sure,
are we
but
saying?
the thing so that's my point though, is like John Cena's the greatest of all time. It's the perfect way to close the chapter for the belt. If John Cena, let's just go hypothetical.
Mhm.
If John Cena retired the Intercontinental Championship and the belt went away, they do a tournament in 2026. It becomes a new belt, a whole new name, a whole new legacy, a whole new design. It's no longer the Intercontinental Championship. The belt gets defended in AAA, NXT, Raw, all these different things. It's
Yeah.
always going to be known that John Cena was the last Intercontinental Champion of all time. He is considered the greatest of all time. All that
I could
does
see
is
where
solidify the reigns that were previously held before him. And that's basically putting the stamp of approval saying John Cena
he
was
was
the
the
GOAT.
last person who had it. Yeah, but my problem is if you were going to do that, you should have done that with the United States Championship. You have to think about it. The one championship that really needed to be revamped, and I guess now we're kind of fixing that problem with these open challenges, was that United States Championship.
Yes,
It's kind of hard to say. It's kind of hard to say the Intercontinental Championship because that thing throughout time has been a fine championship.
that's not the point,
Maybe
though.
there was some. Okay.
That's not the point, though. The point is saying, hey, this is such a fine championship that now John Cena has finally won it. It's finally time to close a chapter on it. Nobody else will ever be greater than John Cena, so this belt goes away.
Okay, now I see what you're saying. It's about there's never going to be another person that holds it that's better than John Cena.
That's John Cena himself. And it just
I
solidifies
guess
all
we'll
the
find out
previous
if somebody
reigns.
wins 18. If
Brother, of
somebody wins
course.
18, then what's the conversation? Then what's the conversation?
Yes, I understand, but John Cena has won that belt several times, 17 times. I'm saying the Intercontinental Championship was the one that he was never able to win. He never won it. Do you get what I'm coming from?
Yeah,
That the perspective is, hey, he's never had this belt. Now that he's had this belt, it's over with. But that my point that I'm making though is if WWE were to do that, it allows them to freshen up the show moving forward.
Fair. Very fair.
I just think that's the way to do it.
I'm still gonna disagree with you.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. I'm still gonna disagree with you, but I hear where you're coming from.
Yeah.
So big shout out to Adam Myron. Thank you for the $5 super chat, man.
Yeah. I just wanted to shout out Miles Gilbert Roberson, by the way, member for 29 freaking months. He
Miles,
says,
that's my guy.
Insane. VIP member for that long. I love it. Thank you, bro.
Dude, that's my guy.
He says,
I love Miles.
He says, how do you guys feel about Ray and Dom running it back? Do you think Jay will hit his breaking point and join the Vision? Two quick answers. Ray and Dom, I'm cool with. San Diego, it makes a lot of sense. However, if Ray is going to go after the Intercontinental Championship, after what we all just discussed about the John Cena stuff, if Ray goes after the Intercontinental Championship, I need them to do something different. Because Ray is an amazing competitor, but Ray is a baby face, and I love him, but I don't want Ray to have a long title reign in 2025, 2026. Like, I just don't. I want Ray to be in a situation where he's awesome, he's talented, you have him beat his son up, that's cool. Like, whatever, that's great storytelling. But
if you're not a wrestling fan and somebody says that, it sounds so much different. Imagine that. Like, yeah. Oh, yeah, he's here to beat his son up.
Yeah. But, like, if Ray were to do that, and then, hey, maybe Dragon Lee eventually goes solo and does a heel turn and goes after Ray for WrestleMania. Like,
or we get a dark version of Penta.
Again, these are a whole bunch of great ideas that can happen. That's the only way I would like it. I don't want Ray to hold the belt unless it led to something very, very creative and very fun. Yes. Do I think Jay will hit his breaking point and join the Vision? I do think Jay will hit his breaking point. I don't see him joining the Vision, though.
Really, you don't?
No, I think Jay's.
I don't think he fits the mold of the Vision.
It's not about the mold. It's more about, I think the Jay heel turn, I think, leads to more cinema with the bloodline stuff. I think you have to revisit the bloodline and kind of go from there.
For sure. Yeah, because they're telling the story with Jimmy and stuff like that and Roman. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so now that's kind of where I see it. But shout out to Miles. What I want to ask you, Billy, is because we obviously want to talk about the Logan Paul thing. Logan Paul joined the Vision, or did he not? But right now he's aligned with the Vision. Clearly, this is for War Games. They're setting something up there. Makes a lot of sense. So let's talk about this for a second. And I think this is a very, very, very interesting talking point. You had talked to me about the idea of Logan Paul joining the Vision before.
Back in May.
I wouldn't say I was against it. I wouldn't say I was for it. I would say I was probably indifferent about it. Like, not that big of a deal. Like, yeah, it could be cool, whatever.
Brother, I got called a noob like 5 times. I read comments last night on a video I posted. I got called a noob. I got told my take was garbage. Shout out to all them people, but continue.
But so now we see it happening, and I just kind of want to get your overall consensus on it, because I have so many opinions on it where, like, I'm actually in love with it, to be honest.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and say this. So obviously, like you said, you know, the he's aligned with the Vision, or has he? Right. Yeah. We have to let two things be true. There's a world where he is with the Vision. There's also a world where he's not with the Vision. Now, let's go off the basis that he is with the Vision. If he is with the Vision, it makes a lot of sense. It's somebody who I believe WWE was very high on, and I've been saying this for so long. WWE was super high on Logan Paul. Whether you love the guy, whether you hate him, it didn't really matter. The guy was super important. WWE felt a certain type of way about him. Look at all the experienced matches that he had. What his 4th match, he faced Roman Reigns for the WWE Championship. Dude, they were high on the guy.
Yeah.
Okay. So With that being said, we have to look at the group division. The basis of the vision is the future. What is in store for the future, or even just the right now? Well, what's in store for the future? You have Braun Breaker, you have Bronson Reed. Those are two very good, very talented pro wrestlers that obviously fit the mold of the vision. Now, when you think about Logan Paul, he's not somebody who's there all the time. He's not somebody who's constantly super involved. He's not somebody who you're seeing on a weekly basis. But when you are seeing him, you feel some type of way about him. You hate the guy, right? You despise him. He's this god dang YouTuber who just offers nothing to the product and he sucks.
Yeah.
Right? So when I see him align with Paul Heyman, instantly my mind goes to, oh, that's genius. WWE loves this guy. They need to meet this criteria of the vision is this bad group. Braun Breaker, like we talked about earlier, is too cool. Bronson Reed is too cool. I think you had mentioned it in a video. These guys need to be hated. This is the perfect way to do it, right? Okay, so let's go off the basis that he's not a part of the vision. I actually look at that as a kind of a letdown, in my personal opinion. If you don't have him join the vision, and excuse me, my headphone went out. If you have him not join the vision, the one thing that you have is there's no story there. Hold on one second. My headphone unplugged. I'm getting hype over here. So if you don't have him join the vision, you ultimately get some type of letdown from me, because I don't necessarily know where the story would be if that were the case. If you have him hand those brass knuckles to Paul Heyman, what is that for? Why'd you do that? In my eyes, when I see him hand those brass knuckles to Paul Heyman, it's, hey, you hold on to these from now on, and whenever I need you, you're right there to give them to me, right? That's how I view it. That's how I look at that. So if you don't, and you just have him pop in for War Games just because you need to sell War Games, and you need to have him a part of that match, you're lacking storytelling. It's not there, right? You can make the argument, well, oh, he knocked out CM Punk, and remember they had this whole thing, way back when on TMZ about they wanted to wrestle, or Logan Paul wanted to wrestle, CM Punk, or they hated each other, blah, blah, blah. That's not enough for me. It's not. If that is the one reason that you're going to have him enter this War Games match, it's not enough.
Yeah.
And other than that, there's no story there, in my personal opinion. So I do think that he has joined the vision strictly based off that brass knuckle, handing it to Paul Heyman. Obviously, Paul Heyman is somebody who's sickening, conniving, and it's like, hey, I trust you with these now. So Logan Paul obviously trusts Paul Heyman. So I do think that he has joined, but ultimately there is a world that he didn't. If he didn't, I hate it. I'm done blabbing.
I love what you just said, and I love the idea of Logan Paul and Paul Heyman being together long term, and I love nothing more than the idea of Logan Paul being part of the vision long term. In May, when you brought it up originally, it's not that you can't see the vision, no pun intended, clearly. It's just the group at that time wasn't reeking of like
it was
cool.
It was different too.
Yeah,
right. It was different.
Yeah, like Seth is a great heel to the point where it's like, okay, shut the fuck up, you're annoying, right? And so now it's like these guys are so fucking badass where it's like they need somebody who's universally hated. Logan Paul is universally hated. Logan Paul is incredibly talented. I don't care what the IWC says. You cannot convince me otherwise. This guy is a phenomenal professional wrestler. He is a phenomenal WWE superstar. And the fact that he is this good, and of course, Logan Paul's a businessman. Logan Paul is full-time WWE. Full-time WWE. The reason being, because the business with TKO just simply makes so much sense. I fully predict not only is Logan Paul a future world champion, but I would actually have Logan Paul beat CM Punk for the world championship.
His brother about to ruffle some feathers.
Fucking A, I don't care. Logan Paul, let me be very clear. Logan Paul should beat CM Punk for the World Heavyweight Championship. I would actually screw Punk over. He won the belt, and that's cool. Have Logan Paul win very quickly. Logan Paul gets hated by everybody, but he's very good. Let him do this stuff with the vision. When Seth Rollins comes back and he sees that he's replaced by Logan Paul, character change for Seth Rollins. It just makes a lot of sense. But CM Punk losing the belt to Logan Paul is going to even create a better version of CM Punk for the future, because CM Punk is towards the end of his career. Logan Paul is that good, bro. He is that good, and people would hate it. People are gonna write comments on this with hatred, and they're gonna think I'm like grifting or rage baiting or something. But imagine the content that you get when everybody thinks, oh my God, Braun Breaker's the one to evolve and win the world championship. No, imagine if it was Logan Paul and Paul Heyman sides with him. And then eventually you turn Braun Breaker as a babyface and Braun Breaker wins the world heavyweight championship as a babyface, because that would be the better way to do it. But now you could tell some really good stories with Punk and Logan. When Rollins comes back, there's a million stories. I'm just saying, if there was ever a time to switch it up, give it to Logan Paul now, because he's actually good and he could hold his own, bro.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you 100%. I mean, they're like I said, you're gonna rumble some feathers with that one. But I do see a world where you're right? Because Seth Rollins is out. There has to be a new person that hates CM Punk, right? That's just the storyline. That's how the cookie crumbles. Somebody has to hate CM Punk, and CM Punk has to hate somebody. Perfect person to hate, Logan Paul. He's the perfect person.
Imagine CM Punk had this huge history with Paul Heyman. He got screwed over by Paul Heyman with Seth Rollins, and now Paul Heyman's a smart businessman. He goes, dude, I want Logan Paul. Those promos, oh my God, bro. It would be so... I'm 100% sold on Logan Paul. I don't care what anybody says, dude. The guy is that good. And listen, I just think there's so many cool stories. There's so many cool stories. So many cool stories. And like I said, from a business perspective, it just makes too much sense. It makes too much sense. Why wouldn't Logan Paul be a world heavyweight champion? This guy's actually good. He's a lot better. Dude, I can name like 10, 15 people, 20 people between WWE, AEW, TNA that Logan Paul is better than. Not just in ring.
Me too.
But character in ring. Like, I could literally name a lot of people that I would pick him over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too.
And like, people probably think I'm trolling or some shit. I'm not trolling. I genuinely believe Logan Paul should be
the guy's good. The guy's a good pro wrestler. Whether people like to believe it or not, the dude is a solid pro wrestler.
Yeah, man.
Through and through.
It's just the way I see it. It's just the way I see it. I'm calling it what it is.
Yeah, bro, you're not crazy. You're right. You're 100% right.
And the way he uses the internet in his podcast, and Paul Heyman's very much on the internet. He has Heyman Hustle. Like, maybe this is something where, like, dude, you could do a lot of stuff there. And if you really want to tell a good story with Logan Paul and CM Punk, look no further than the Paul Heyman inclusion, but look no further than Seth Rollins, who comes back. Brother, is this a situation where Seth Rollins has to put his beef to the side with CM Punk because of Paul Heyman and Logan Paul? Wait, that could even be something interesting. Like, it's crazy. There's stuff you can do. You could do so much with it.
For sure. Hey, brother, I need to make a quick phone call real fast. Can you hold down the fort for 2 seconds?
You're actually good, because we're at that time to call the show off. So.
Oh, well, real fast. I did get a super chat from Sharon Dye, and she said, good to see both of you. It was for $1.99. Just wanted to mention that.
Guys, we'll be back tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be a very, very good stream. NXT is supposed to be fired tonight. I'm excited about it. We're going to talk about it tomorrow.
Yeah, we back, baby. We back.
Shout out to Billy. Check him out, Billy TKO. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the Ango Show. We'll see you guys next time.